Hello there, second channel. You may also hear that the quality of the audio is not as great as my main channel one, because, the point of this second channel is that I can put in a bit less effort in order to get more videos up, and I clearly have not been following that advice, and as a result, have not been uploading at all. And so now that you're seeing this, hopefully I have begun uploading more consistently. So what are we doing today? Today, I'm going to take a chance to show off one of my new decks and one of my side TCGs, which is the Pokemon card game. So why the Pokemon card game? I've actually played the Pokemon card game for a pretty long time, since like the end of the Black-White era. So like around like Plasma Freeze, Plasma Storm, like those sets. And I usually like play it like once or twice a year, just like for a couple of weeks I just jam it. And then I kind of get bored. Look at the competition, look at the events, look at the meta. If the meta's good, I come back. If it's not, I don't. I wasn't too big of a fan of a lot of the tag team meta. It didn't feel as exciting as it has in previous metas, but right now, the Pokemon TCG feels pretty damn exciting, I gotta say. So, the game feels like it's gotten cheaper. That was also one of the things that's been gating me away from it, is that it was very expensive last rotation. Jirachis, the Denes, like a lot of the other like staples basically were pretty pricey, and so I felt that it wasn't as fun to invest in the game. But right now, like the most expensive card is Crobat, and in Europe it's like 13-14 bucks, so it's pretty cheap to pick up. So yeah, I feel like the game itself is pretty cheap right now, and on top of that, my favorite Pokemon ever got some good support, which is Scizor. So I thought, why not do a deck profile? I don't really have many chances to play physical Pokemon TCG outside of like one or two friends, but sometimes we can play on remote, so maybe I'll get to hit it up at some point. But mostly I play on PTCGO. Sometimes I stream it on my Twitch. If you are a first-time watcher, if you don't even watch my main channel, you came here from like searching Scizor VMAX deck, then yeah, my main channel is called SecondFight. I do content for a card game called Vanguard, but yeah, if you want to check me out, please do. I also stream on Twitch. So I'm going to go through this. This will be from a perspective of someone that hasn't seriously played this game since like, God, I don't know, like Picarom's release, I guess. I kind of like, and then I played a little bit with the Reshiram Zekrom tag team, so Reshiram, so that was pretty fun, but I definitely like the meta right now a lot more. So let's just go over my list. Of course, there's quite a few things that we can improve on and change up, so maybe you guys in the comments that are Pokemon TCG gods can tell me about that. So running a 2-2 line, so this is going to be pretty different from what you see of like the Pokemon TCG deck list people. They spread the whole deck out. I prefer to just kind of do it in bites. So 2-2 line of Scizor V and Scizor VMAX. Scizor V's attacks are 1 Steel Energy to deal 30, and then it discards a Pokemon tool and a special energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. So it's pretty cool just because it can like take out their like the special Psychic energies, special Lightning energies. I forget what the names of those are called, but there's quite a few like special energies. Also ADP runs quite a few special energies too, so it's pretty nice for that reason. And then a lot of decks run tools right now, including this one, so it's, even if you have to sit on this, it's not that bad. I usually try not to, because he only has 210 HP, so you can get one shot by quite a few things. He has also Slash and Claw for 2 Steel and a colorless for 140. Of course, that can scale with some of the stuff we have in this deck, but that's kind of beside the point. Weakness to Fire, which means that he's both weak to Charizard VMAX as well as the Scorch. Scorch especially is a bit of a problem card, and also Blounds I think is still quite alive. So those are a problem, but we're running the Weakness Guard energy to circumvent that. And then the VMAX, what the VMAX does is, hold on, let's just quickly readjusting the positions. So what the VMAX does is it has 320 HP, so of course it's a huge boost in terms of survivability. And he has Heart Scissors for colorless and a Steel Energy 90, and he takes, during the next turn, takes 30 less damage from attacks. So this already is a damage reduction, so we're going to be running a lot of these damage reduction abilities, basically to take as little damage as possible and then come in with these 90 attacks and the 190 max Steel Spike for 2 Steel and a colorless. So it feels like it usually can like 2-hit KO most things, and things that you're playing against can 2-hit KO you because you're so tanky, so it usually works out pretty well. So then, in terms of these like random texts, maybe I should organize this a bit better and like put the search cards and like random texts a bit towards the end and the more staple cards towards the front. I think that might be a little bit better. It's my first time actually doing a Pokemon deck profile. Anyway, we got 2 Luke medals, as they're called. Luke Metal is a pretty cool card. Basically says, has 3 attacks, it's a 260 tag team. So both tag teams and these Pokemon VMAXs, when they're knocked out, your opponent takes 3 prize cards. If you're new to the Pokemon TCG coming from a main channel. But the tag teams, they have this extra attack, which is called a GX attack, which you can only use once per game. So what Luke Metal's GX attack is that it costs a colorless energy, and if you attach an extra steel, it does more stuff. So for just 1 colorless, for the rest of this game, your steel-type Pokemon take 30 less damage from your opponent's attacks for the entire game. So that's really, really big. So you keep in mind that our Scizor VMAX is taking 30 less from attacks when we use the first attack, and then with the Full Metal Wall GX, we're taking 60 less. Then on top of that, if you had at least 1 extra energy attached to him when you use this attack, you also discard all energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. So sometimes you can punish them for like overcommitting early, like on a ADP or something. If you don't know what ADP is, Arceus Dialga Palkia tag team is a very strong deck. But yeah, apart from that, he has Steel Fist, 2 colorless for 50, and you search your deck for Steel Energy and attach to him. And then the second attack is 2 Steel and 2 colorless for Heavy Impact, which does 150. So some big attacks that you can use as like a backup attacker, so that's why I'm running 2, also in case he gets prized, because it's pretty important. I'm running 1 Zacian, don't really have much space for much more than that. Zacian has the Brave Blade attack, 3 Steel Energy for 230 damage, and then next turn he cannot attack, but if you switch him in, switch him out and back in, he can attack again, of course. And then the card, the part of this card that makes it amazing is the Intrepid Sword ability. What it does is, once during your turn, you can check the top 3 cards of your deck and attach any number of Steel Energy from among them to the Zacian V. But the remaining cards that aren't energies go to your hand. So that's really, really cool, because you basically get to just, like, in best case scenarios, draw 3. But it ends your turn after you use this ability, so you have to be careful. But going first, for example, it's really nice because you get to basically draw an extra 3 cards, which is very, very good. Let's put it that way. Then we have, of course, the counterpart, Zamazenta V. Zamazenta V has an ability which says Dauntless Shield. Prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from your opponent's Pokemon VMAX. So this basically says, like, there's been quite a few VMAXs that are gone popular lately. Like, at first we had Dragapult, and now there's the Eternatus, so pretty popular as well. So basically, you can switch this in and it won't take any damage from VMAXs, which is pretty cool. And then the second tech is 2 Steals in the colors for 130, which also discards a special energy from the opponent's active Pokemon. So, kinda cool. Kinda cool. I kinda like this. I actually really like Sword and Shield in general, and the two like legendaries were definitely quite cool. And I'm also, if you don't know much about me, I'm a huge fan of Steel types, so this definitely vibes with me pretty hard, let's put it that way, as the kids would say. Then we're running a 2-2 line once again of Galarian Meowth and Galarian Berserker. So what do these 2 cards do? So what Berserker does is, his attack doesn't really matter. He has an ability which says, your Steel Pokemon's attacks do 20 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. So you remember that 90 damage Scizor's attack that makes him take 30 less? Yeah, that does 110 now. And then the one that he does 194 does 210. Therefore, that is 320 damage, which is enough to knock out most VMAXs. So that's pretty cool in terms of damage scaling. In order to get Berserkers though, we have Galarian Meowth, who has this ability Evolution Roar. You can discard 2 cards from your hand to search Galarian Berserker from your deck and add it to your hand. And then next turn after you play Galarian Meowth, you can evolve it, because that's how it works in the Pokemon TCG. On top of that, there's some abilities that, where you can't do damage. Like, for example, if your opponent just switches in a Zamazenta V and you don't have a way to switch it out with the boss's orders, you can use Duraludon V as an additional attacker. He has 1 colorless for 30 and attach a Steel Energy from discard pile to one of your Pokemon. Sometimes useful just to recycle your energy. And then he has 2 steals and a colorless for Power Beam, 110. So for a, non-GX, non-EX, non-VMAX, whatever card, it's pretty good. It's definitely not bad as a one-of. Then we have a few of those tech cards that help us kind of play through the game. So these are Dedenne, Crobat, and Eldegoss. So what do? Dedenne says, the attack doesn't matter. Dedenne has Deadly Change, which is the ability. When you play it from your hand onto the bench, which is like the back 5, basically you get to discard your hand and draw 6 once per turn. So that's really cool, because if you're breaking, for example, or if you just like played through your entire hand, you just play this as your last card and you draw 6. Or even if you had like 1 or 2 duds in your hand, you can just drop them, draw 6. So it's really, really good. Crobat does a similar thing, but instead of discarding, he has Dark Ascent. So when you play him from your hand onto your bench, you can draw cards until you have 6 cards in your hand, but you can only use it once per turn. So basically with this, it's kind of like Shaman EX from back in the day, except limited to once per turn. So you basically, if you have like really good cards in hand that you don't want to drop, but you have like only like 2, you can play the Crobat V and then just draw up to 6 and then still do more plays. And then Eldegoss V has an ability that says Happy Match. When you play it onto your from your hand onto your bench, you can put a supporter card from your discard pile into your hand. So if you have some very important supporter that you want to reuse, you can use Eldegoss to grab it. Then in terms of trainers, supporters, and stuff, we have quite a few. Let me just run through some of them here, I think, some of the attachments. So we have 1 Air Balloon, then I'm running 4 Metal Saucer, which is a very obvious card. So maybe let me walk through these first. So Air Balloon is an this is an item that can be, attached, a tool that can be attached to your Pokemon. So it makes the retreat cost of the Pokemon that's attached to 2 energy less. So normally when you retreat in Pokemon, you have to like discard energy that says like this. So like here you have to discard 2 energy to take him from the active to the bench. But if you have an Air Balloon attached, then you don't. So that's pretty good. And we have quite a few of those that we want to retreat. So like Zacian costs 2, so it becomes 0. Zamazenta costs 2, this costs 2, this costs 2, this costs 1, 1, 1. So Air Balloon will take care of most of that stuff. Metal Saucer is a really, really good card. It basically says that you can attach a Steel Energy from your discard pile to one of your bench Steel Pokemon. So you can just set up like a Scizor VMAX on your bench and then switch it in, or like a Lucario Melmetal, or Zacian, Zamazenta, whatever you want really. So it's pretty good for that very reason. Then we have Metal Goggles. This is the most important one, I would say, for Scizor, simply because this is another attachment that primarily goes on Scizor, which says the Steel type Pokemon this card is attached to takes 30 less damage from your opponent's attacks, and your opponent's attacks and abilities can't put damage counters on it. So what that means is that you have quite a few cards in the current meta that say like, oh, like deal certain amount of damage to the Pokemon on the bench. So you can attach this to the bench Pokemon and suddenly they can't. So there's another different attachment that takes away more damage rather, but it can only last for 1 turn. And I tried running that, but in this card meta, it felt like the Metal Goggles was better because there's quite a few of those like bench damaging Pokemon, as well as, just, I don't know, it felt like it was pretty okay as it is right now. I might change it though, we'll see in the future. Then I'm running 4 switches, so these are the old Diamond and Pearl switches, and then we got a Hard Gold, so silver one, and I can't remember where this one's from. Then moving on, so switch, literally, if you don't know what it does, it just switches one of your bench Pokemon with one of your active, so pretty self-explanatory. I'm running 3 Pokemon Communications. That's pretty good too. It lets you put a Pokemon from your hand into your deck, and then search your deck for any other Pokemon and put it into your hand. So literally just trade whatever you want. So if you have like no Scizor VMAX, but you have like the Denny in your hand, you can put the Denny back and search the VMAX instead and VMAX that turn. So it's good, it's very versatile. Of course, I'm not giving it justice by glossing over it, but Then we have Quickball, which is our ball search that is currently in standard. So this lets you discard 1 card to play it, and then you search the deck for any basic Pokemon and add it to your hand. So we have quite a few basic Pokemon. This is not a basic, but this is. So Scizor is, Lucario Melmetal is, Zacian is, Zamazenta is, the Meowth is, Duraludon is, and all of these are as well. So quite a few targets in the deck, which is pretty good. Then I'm running, for the time being, 3 Boss's Orders because I run the Eldegoss. So Boss's Orders is a very busted card that lets you switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon into their active. So you get to basically like take something weak up to the front and snipe it, and then get closer to winning or win outright thanks to this card. I might consider cutting something to play 4. If you have suggestions, leave them in the comments. Then we have 4 Marnie. Marnie's very important. Marnie is cool lady. I definitely grew to like her a lot. Like at first, like when Sword and Shield was being revealed, I was like, I mean, she looks cool, but I'm not really buying the whole goth GF aesthetic. But having played through the game, I was like, okay, her character's pretty dope, so I like her a lot more. She basically shuffles both players' hands into the bottom of the deck, and then the person that played this card draws 5, and the person that, like the opponent, draws 4 instead. So you can also like downsize your opponent's hand while also like recovering yourself from a brick or something. So Marnie's very, very good. Also, I wanted to say, like, Boss's Orders, interestingly, like doesn't cost much in English right now, but in Japan, this card costs $30 a piece because it's only available as a rare foil, whereas in English it's available as like a reverse, a rare foil, a common, so it's much easier to pull in English. whereas in Japanese it's like mad expensive. Like right now, one of the things restricting Pokemon TCG from actually getting back to its like the boom it had in 2018 is Boss's Orders price tag. And we have Professor's Research. This card is pretty good. Lets you discard your hand and draw 7. Supporter cards can only be played once per turn if you didn't know that. So these are like really broken abilities, but you can only play them once per turn. So, you know, you have to choose between like a Boss's Orders or Marnie or Professor's Research or anything else that you play. So this is good for like drawing out of your brick, also discarding your Steel Energy so you can use them with the Metal Saucer and stuff like that. So Professor's Research is a staple in everything. So that kind of explains itself. We have Mallow and Lana. So this is one of the tag team supporters. When you play it normally, you can switch one of your active Pokemon with your bench, so literally just a switch. But if you also discard 2, you have the ability to heal 120 damage from the Pokemon that you move to the bench. So if your Scizor is out there, champ chilling in the active spot and has been taking a lot of damage, but you want it to last a bit longer, you can use Mallow and Lana to put it back, heal up, and then just switch back out again with a switch, or if you had like the air balloon on something, just switch out for free. So Mallow and Lana came in handy quite a lot, so I bumped it up to 2. I used to play 1, but it felt pretty good. This deck doesn't need any stadiums, so I play 1 Chaotic Swell, which basically nukes other people's stadiums. So when they play a stadium, it gets discarded instantly, so they have to play 2 if they want to get it off. And usually they don't have to, so we take those dubs thanks to that. And then of course I mentioned, fire types are kind of roaming around right now in the meta, so I'm playing Weakness Guard Energy. This provides colorless energy, but the Pokemon this card is attached to has no weakness, so we get rid of that fire type weakness from the Scizor, which is pretty good. And then to finish up, we have, I think, 7 Steel Energy. 7 felt like the sweet spot here, so I'm running 7. I usually draw into them pretty consistently, and also discard them pretty consistently for the Metal Saucer. So yeah, that's the list. You will notice that my deck is double sleeved. I know for the Pokemon players, they'll be like, what the hell? Why would you double sleeve? That's illegal. I don't play at regionals, and we don't have a local scene for this, so I only play with friends. And in my game, in Vanguard, we double sleeve all the time. It's legal to double sleeve, and therefore, that's how we roll. So I prefer to preserve these beautiful sleeves. I think Lusamine is a pretty cool character. So, I kind of don't want to damage these, and I like using these kind of character sleeves rather than the basic color ones. So yeah, come at me, bro, if anything. But anyway, that's kind of it for this second channel video. Don't expect too much. Probably won't have any like fight videos. Maybe I'll do like a PTCGO video with this deck or something, just to show how it works if people like this video. But yeah, if you have any other ideas of what can go on the second channel, let me know. Maybe it'll come true, maybe not. Otherwise, I'll just put out stuff that whatever I feel like, whether that's deck profiles or gameplay videos with my friends or just eating random food. We'll find out. But anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Peace!